Good morning, Hope Hub, rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. It's Tuesday. Tomorrow is a holiday, so July 4th here in the US. So today is actually, Friday. At least just for today. Then we're back to work on Thursday, Friday. I don't know. The holiday fell on a really weird day. Hump day? Anyway. Today's July 3rd, Testimony Tuesday, and I was walking and I was thinking about how here on the Hope Hub, I try not to get too pigeonholed in terms of a subject because I want to be authentic and I want to be myself whilst serving you. Because if I am only doing things that I think that you all want to hear, sometimes you get tired. So I tend to just show up as myself, and whatever it is that I'm thinking, I always circle it back to hope. So I was thinking about how when I first started the Hope Hub, I had every intent to bring people in who would talk about different areas that people give up hope on. And basically that idea was kind of sort of challenging. I suppose when I first told my story of facing a challenge and having to look for hope stories and testimonies and miracles, and how I struggled with finding people who would be willing to share their own testimonies in order to give me hope, I thought, hey, let me start this Hope Hub, and maybe other people will come alongside me and tell their stories of hope. But I didn't realize that that was an idea that was polarizing. In terms of, it's an idea that, people have a desire to share their story. Yes, they have this latent desire, this thing that's telling them, maybe I could share my story and maybe it will help someone. Maybe I should do it. But on the flip side, they're thinking, but that will put me somewhere where I'm vulnerable and people will know all my stuff and I don't want to share. And, people outside of my circle will know things that are very intimate about me, blah, 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 or whatever the reason is. So I didn't really realize how hard it would be to pull this off until I was actually in it. So this is the same thing for business owners and entrepreneurs. And so I'm circling back to the fact that when I started, I was like, wouldn't it be great if people who have had issues with finance, had issues with business or family or relationships or a diagnosis, could share how they went through that challenge and how they overcame. But, it was like pulling teeth to get people to do that because, as I said, it's polarizing. So anyway, that being said, I have decided, or in the last couple of weeks, I keep telling myself I need to come here and talk about other topics so that I'm not pigeonholing myself or making this platform a platform that's only for certain people. Or maybe I'm only interviewing people who have gone through a diagnosis or whatever. I want to have a variety of things that people go through and how they have overcome. So today I was listening to How I Built This on NPR. It's an awesome podcast. And the story, it's an entrepreneurship story, is the story of Joe Gebbie. Joe Gebbie? He's the guy who founded Airbnb. You guys need to listen to that story. If you haven't heard the story, it is so inspirational. But just in a little nutshell, good morning. In a little nutshell, basically he started this organization, this business, based on a chance encounter with a stranger. So apparently when he was moving from, I forget what town he was moving from, to San Francisco, he had to sell off all his stuff in a yard sale. So he's selling all this stuff, and this stranger comes up. It's a guy who is going to the Peace Corps, and so he's driving from city to city across the country, and he buys a piece of art from him. And so they get to talking, and while they're talking, this guy tells him, look, I'm here in Providence because I'm driving all the way to across the country because I'm in the Peace Corps, but I don't know anyone in this city. And currently it's looking like it's getting late, but I don't know where to go to have a meal. And so Joe Gebby says, well, let me take you somewhere and let's have a drink, let's have a meal. So they go out together, and when they go out together at the end, during the meal, this guy from the Peace Corps, he discloses, actually, another thing, I need a place to stay or crash for the night. Otherwise, I'm going to have to spend the night in my car. And so Joe Gebby says, hey, I'll house you for the night. I have an air mattress. So, you know, if you don't mind, I can put it in the living room and you can crash there for the night. So he does that. Well, that night he puts out the air mattress. So can you imagine, this is a stranger who happened to come to a yard sale, and he houses him for the night. So he says at some point during the night, he like actually tiptoes and like looks out, because he's like, my God, what if I'm housing a psycho? I have this guy in my house. I've never met him. I don't even know whether the stories he's telling me about the Peace Corps are true, but you know, this is scary stuff. And so he tiptoes to his bedroom door and he locks it, and he's like, you know, I hope nothing goes down tonight. But anyway, apparently nothing happens. That morning he wakes up, he gives him breakfast, and the guy is so thankful, and he's on to his merry way. And this guy, they're still connected today, and he's a teacher still in the Peace Corps. So anyway, that being said, the story of Airbnb is very, very long. But basically what happens is that at some point when Joe Gebby is very, very broke, he ends up, you know, remembering this story about how he rented out his living room and had a stranger sleeping in his, not rented out, had a stranger sleep in his living room. And so him and his roommate, who are like, they're basically eating ramen noodles, they have no money. They decide, well, why not? There's a huge conference going on in town. I think it was some kind of Silicon Valley conference. And then they built a website, and then they said on the website, just specifically for their apartment, they built a website and they said, hey, we will rent out our apartment, which was actually, I think it was their living room and one bedroom, to 3 people for $80 a night. And yeah, I think it was for $80 a night and breakfast. And we will give you a map of San Francisco, and we will walk you around San Francisco for the day. And you know, that's what our services will be, and we're charging $80 a night. And do you know, lo and behold, they get 3 people, and they're like, holy moly. And these people actually end up staying over, and they loved their experience. And then that was it. The conference was over. So after that, they were like, maybe this is an idea that we could do going forward. And so they try it. It goes, you know, trial and error. But the next time when they have actual momentum is during the Barack Obama 2008 election. And it was in 2008 Democratic, what is it called? You know, when they have the speeches, and Barack Obama was supposed to be speaking at the Democratic convention. And so during that time, they open up a site, Airbnb, and they ask people, because there was a housing crisis, so many people were coming to the convention, there wasn't enough hotels, there wasn't enough housing. The mayor, I think it was in Chicago or Cleveland, had actually said maybe he'll open up the park so people can put mattresses out and people can sleep on the, you know, in the parks or whatever, because there was nowhere for people to stay. So at that time, Joe Gebby and his partner, they're like, look, we have this idea. We're gonna put it out as a press release to the press, and we'll ask people to rent out their homes during this convention for pay. And of course, they'll put it out as a marketplace thing, where on PayPal, where people can pay via credit card on the site and have people over. So you can imagine at that time how crazy this idea seemed. Like, who does that? Who rents out their house or takes pictures of their own bathroom, their own living room, their own bedroom, you know, trying to make it nice, and having total strangers coming in and trusting that these individuals are not psychotic or kill your family at night? Because at that time, a lot of Airbnbs were you're renting out a room in your house while you're there. Usually nowadays, I don't see a whole lot of that online. But anyway, so that's when they built kind of sort of momentum. And it was basically an endeavor of a lot of perseverance and grit and bootstrapping, because even after the 2008 Democratic Convention, when they thought they were building up, after the convention, everyone took their houses off the Airbnb portal, and so they were back to zero. And then after that, they had like maybe 30 houses or homes at any given time, and usually in New York. And then also they were having a hard time getting venture capitalists and people to invest in this business. So how did they make the turnaround? It was basically them speaking to the end user, which was the people who had their homes up in New York, and actually going to them and finding out what is it that what's their why behind having their houses up in the marketplace, and what was their why what was their why, and what issues did they have as a user of this service, and then just working through those different kinks, and actually taking gorgeous photos of the houses, because at that time people were just using their flip phones in a dark house taking pictures. Now when you see the pictures of the houses, you're like, I don't want to stay there. I'd rather pay twice as much to stay in a hotel. And so, the Airbnb founders at the time, who were still really poor at the time, went around each of those 30 properties in New York, took design, because both of them were, I think, in design or web tech or whatever technology. They took really beautiful pictures. They made the houses look nice. And then all of a sudden, it started to pick up. And all of a sudden, people who came, especially in New York, which is an international city, when they came and they stayed over and went back to wherever they were from, France, Frankfurt, Belgium, wherever, parts of the world, Fiji, they were like, wait, if that person in New York can put up their house on Airbnb, maybe I should put up my house on Airbnb and have people come stay for free while I go somewhere else on vacation, right? Isn't there there's a movie about that, right? Holiday, where this lady goes to the UK and the other one comes to San Francisco because they had no one to spend the holiday with. But anyway, so that was my, so my whole point with giving you the Airbnb story is it reminds me of, number one, that anyone who is going through an entrepreneurial journey has to go through a lot. Basically, you're putting your life, your finances, your idea, your everything that you have in order for this idea to come to be. And basically, during the time when you're building it, you'll face a lot of challenges. You will face a lot of adversity. You're going to face a lot of naysayers, people who will tell you this is not possible for you. This is not a good idea. This is a crazy idea. And so, like I said, most ideas when they start, they're polarizing. Most good ideas are polarizing. Like, think about the different ideas that have come in the last 10 years or 20 years. Most of them people were like Facebook. Like, who would want to have who would want to share their life on social media? And there's still people who are not on social media because they're like, I don't want to be all out there like that, and people seeing my family and where I live and my children and posting them out to 500 friends or 1,000 friends or 5,000 friends now, right? But that idea was polarizing. But at the end of the day, it pulls on something, a latent desire in people to share. While on the other side, it's also pulling in the opposite direction, where people are feeling like, ew, this is crazy. This is completely crazy. And so Airbnb, remember, was started. Hi, Hannah. Airbnb was started with an air mattress on a floor, and a guy from Peace Corps that happened to be in the neighborhood bought a picture from Joe Gebby. And Joe Gebby later on, like a year or so later on, he was like, if a stranger is willing to stay in my house and not know who I am on an air mattress, and he's so grateful and thankful about being in that particular city and seeing the city and not having to deal with hotels and not having to pay a whole lot of money, especially people who don't have the finances or the resources like that, maybe other people would be willing to open up their houses and let someone put an air mattress on the floor or open up a bedroom for them for a short stay in order for them to travel the world and have new experiences and still have the comforts of home. So that's what Airbnb is about. So what is your idea? What is your business, right? Has your idea, how do I put this? Maybe your idea is an idea whose time has come, or whose time has not come. If you're still in that process of trying to figure out, what am I doing? Nobody really cares about this. Whenever I mention this to people, it's a conversation stopper where they're just like, forget that. Like, seriously? That's your idea? You want me to what? Tell you my story of my challenges and my adversity in order for me to help someone else who is going through the same? A hope hub? Like, excuse me, what is that about? That nobody's gonna do that. Nobody wants to tell their story of vulnerability. Nobody wants to share that, right? So just remember, take heart, because even for me in this season, that's what I'm having to do, is continue to take heart and understand that if I'm willing to do it, maybe someone else is willing to do it. Maybe someone else can be that person who is willing to be just a little vulnerable in order for them to give a glimmer of hope to someone else who is going through the same thing. There is so much power in words. There's so much power in storytelling. There's so much power in somebody sharing their journey and telling you that it's all about grit. It's about perseverance. It's about not giving up. It's about resilience. It's about you being able to say, no matter what, I am committed. I'm going to keep on holding on to this God idea. I am going to continue to innovate on whatever this idea is and not be too boxed in terms of what it is that I want it to look like. That God, if I keep in action, if I keep moving forward, that God will open up the doors that are needed in order for me to get to the next level. That's what business people, entrepreneurs need. And that's why I'm here as well, is to give you this morning, is to give you hope in the area of business and entrepreneurship and remind you not to give up. Because every single story of a business that has succeeded started with an idea. An idea, and that idea, you have to work on it and keep taking action regardless of how crazy it looks. Let me tell you, Mac machines, those are basically like, I think it was in the 70s when the first Mac machine came out. People were totally against it because it meant it's a machine actually on the wall of the bank. And so what were the tellers thinking? Your job's going to be taken by a machine that can cough out money, and the security issues around that. And who doesn't want that personal relationship with your banker? And why would banks go to that and eliminate all these jobs? But now it's like normal, right? Everything you see around you at some point was not normal, but now it's just become part of our environment, right? If you look at cars, I'm looking at cars right now. Before cars was the horse and buggy. Guess what? The people who owned those horses and buggies did not want cars. You know, you're thinking all these automobiles, they go so fast. We're going to get our kids, crashed on the road. I'm sure there were people who are naysayers around cars and not wanting that industry to succeed. But then that idea was an idea whose time had come. Any single thing, right, that has achieved massive success started somewhere. Never give up. Never give up. So that's all, y'all. Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow is a holiday. Hump Day is a holiday. Weird time to have a holiday, but excited nonetheless. Thank you, Hannah. I know the Airbnb story is amazing. It is amazing. And let me tell you, there are nooks and crannies of that, because there was a point they had given up And then they ended up, I think, either it was the next election cycle, they went into making cereal. Like they were making Obama cereal and John McCain cereal, or Maverick cereal and Obama O's, because they had completely given up on the Airbnb idea. But then guess what? That whole cereal venture is what actually opened up the door for them in terms of Airbnb and getting someone to invest in them, because that person was like, damn, you mean you took an idea of making cereal? I think they made 500 boxes of cereal that were Obama O's, and there were 500 boxes they sold at $40 in order to pay off the debt they had incurred trying to build Airbnb. And this guy was like, if you are able to make a new venture just in order for you to, keep your business afloat, or in order for you to overcome the challenge of a business that basically failed, I'm willing to invest in you because of the grit and the perseverance and the stick-with-itness that you've had in building your business. And so that's how they got their first person to invest in them. So when you read these stories, people think it's an overnight sensation when they look at stories like Uber or Airbnb. They don't realize like how much these people went through a period where these things were not working. They were trying this and that until they finally hit that vein where it was the flow of what it is they needed to do in order for them to be successful. He even talks about a place where it's called the trough of sorrow. Is that point where a business person is reaching into their pocket every so often to pay off bills, to build their business, and nothing to show, and they're just incurring debt after debt after debt, and basically you're just relying on God. You're relying on this idea of this vision that no one else can see. I love the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And essentially that's what he says, is that you have to have your why so big and bold in terms of why is it that this is so important to you? And keep that at the forefront of your mind. If you need to write it down, your mission statement, your philosophy, your vision, your idea, keep it at the forefront so that when things come your way that are going to sway you and make you want to give up, you can always look back at your why. Walmart, oh my God, I got to go home. I got to go shower. Walmart is another one, I think, where they were like, they want to make sure that they have a company. Is it Walmart or Costco? Where they hold their employees at a higher level than even their customers. Their employees get paid more than the BJs, the other retail stores, because the company believes in their members, not their members, their employees more than their stakeholders. They want to make sure that people first, the people in the company come first, and that's their why. It's almost like their service is more to the people within the company than it is to their shareholders. And people have, raged against Costco for that, the shareholders, because they feel like they pay their employees too much. But guess what? They have a thriving business. So what is your why? And start there. God bless you. Bye. Bye-bye.